All right, guys. So if you like this kind of content, give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell too to get all the notifications, and that'll help the algorithm. I really appreciate it. The channel's growing. We hit 85K the other day. So thank you so much for that. Like, I could not do it without you guys. You guys have blown this channel up. 85K. I appreciate it so much. More than you guys know. Like, you're really helping me out. And I'm going to continue to pump the content out, interview the top guys, whoever you guys want to hear from, and I'll just keep the content coming. But today, I'm going to react to Johnny Candido's video, which is why high bar squats are superior. So I have some thoughts on this as well before I've even seen the video. I haven't seen it yet, but I'll give my thoughts on what he says and then my overall thoughts. So let's see what he says here.
The high bar squat is arguably the best exercise there is, especially when taken as deeply as possible. You're getting
Well, I would say a hot take. I would still say conventional deadlift is the best all-around exercise there is. If you could only pick one exercise to do for the rest of your life, it's got to be conventional deadlift. So high bar squats, I get that would be up there. Like, I would definitely say high bar squats would be in the top three as far as overall exercises. If you just had to pick one for the rest of your life, we'd probably say like high bar squats, conventional deadlift, and then maybe overhead press. Those would be like the big three you would do if you couldn't pick any other exercises to do. But I still think conventional deadlift is superior to high bar squats for overall development as far as hitting all the muscle groups. Because you're not going to work your back to the same extent with a high bar squat that you would on a conventional deadlift. So I still think conventional deadlift is king of all exercises overall, but high bar squat would be top three. So I do somewhat disagree.
a full range of motion on the quads. You're getting a deep stretch, and ultimately, you don't need a friend to help judge depth. You either do it or you don't. I used to squat low.
That's one of those things too, high bar with squats and depth and all that. You know, depth shouldn't be, if you have no injuries and if you have full mobility, depth shouldn't be an issue. That's one of the things that's like, I understand if there's mobility restrictions, then that's something you need to work on. And if you have an injury history, then obviously too, you might not be able to go as deep. But for most people starting out, depth should not be, shouldn't be an issue. It just shouldn't be.
Low bar. It was a dark time in my past. As you can see, 5 plates moves easily. But is it really legitimate? Now, in terms of exercise science, there's no real evidence to support that the high bar is superior to the low bar. In fact, quad activation is pretty similar. The difference in loading likely does make up for the difference in range of motion.
You know what's interesting? On that same narrative, my quads got the biggest when I was doing a ton of low bar squats. So when I got away from high bar and just did a bunch of low bar, by being able to overall load the weights heavier, I could do more weight. My quads grew more than with high bar squat, even though high bar squat is more quad dominant. So does that make sense? So low bar, you're going to use more of your back. You're going to get your low back more involved and have better leverages. But my quads actually grew more because it was heavier weight, plain and simple. And I could, high bar is just more quad dominant, but you can't use as much weight for most people.
But high bar squats are better than low bar squats. And why is that? It's because exercise scientists have overlooked the fact that high bar squats are morally superior. If you don't cheat on range of motion, it becomes infectious. Then you don't cheat on your spouse, you don't cheat on taxes. People see you warming up and immediately know you're an upstanding citizen. And ultimately, I'm not saying low bar squatters are bad people, just that they'd be better if they did squat high bar.
So it's kind of a pun here. He's making a joke, but high bar, I will say, has its place in training. So why do I program high bar squat? I program high bar squats in for my clients because high bar isn't as taxing on the upper body. So that's one of the main reasons why I don't like to go crazy with the low bar volume and training with my guys. If you do too much low bar, what often tends to happen is you're going to get achiness in the brachialis. So the brachialis is the biceps. You're going to get achiness there. You're going to get achiness on the top of the forearms. You're going to get that golfer's elbow on the underside of the elbow. So there's a lot of tendonitis issues that can crop up if you do too much low bar. So that's why I like to limit low bar with my guys to 1 day per week most times, or even one set per week. Like, I'll have them go up to a single and that'll be it as far as low bar. And the rest of it will be high bar or safety bar squats, because safety bar and high bar do not tax the arms and the upper body in general. They don't torque the shoulders as much as low bar. So high bar is really effective in training. Sometimes when I hear these guys like Sawyer Klatt said it and Chance Mitchell said it, that they don't do high bar at all, they do all low bar squatting, I'm a little surprised because I feel like there's somewhat of a trade-off. If you do only low bar, you're putting a lot of wear and tear on your shoulders and arms, and it's going to negatively affect your bench. Whereas if you do, mainly high bar and work in a little low bar, the hit to your arms and upper body is not quite as much. So that's one of the main reasons why I don't like going crazy with low bar, because a lot of people have tendonitis issues with it. And there are ways to mitigate the tendonitis issues by properly warming up the shoulders and taking your time warming up, getting under the bar. But you still don't want to go overboard with low bar. It's like with anything. So if you have an injury anywhere, if you get back pain, if you get shoulder pain or anything, often it's a volume issue. It's a frequency and volume issue. So if you manage the frequency and volume to a point where you can recover from it, maximum recoverable volume, you're not going to have these issues as bad. So you really have to look at your maximum recoverable volume as far as low bar is concerned. If you do low bar and you're getting a lot of arm pain, a lot of shoulder pain, you're probably past the point of the maximum recoverable volume threshold, and you need to dial back the volume as far as that goes. Do a little less low bar. If you're still good to go, you could dial it up. But this is something you're going to have to play around with over the course of a few weeks to figure out that sweet spot for you. Now, there are, like I said earlier, I just said there are a lot of issues where people don't warm up properly for low bar, and that's why they get the tendonitis issues. And obviously, the more muscle you have, the tougher it is going to be to get the bar low and get yourself under the bar. So more muscle is going to make low bar tougher, which is why I think it's a lot harder on the shoulders and arms of uh, untested lifters who are on anabolic steroids, because they carry a lot of muscle mass in the traps and the shoulders, delts, and all that area. So it makes it tougher to get under the bar than a natural lifter, where you see natural lifters do low bar a lot more in their training. Um, Untested lifters don't do it as much because it is really hard on the body. So you really have to weigh the trade-off with high bar and low bar as far as how much it's negatively going to impact your bench. There's a reason why guys like Kevin Oak and John Hack stick to high bar and don't do low bar at all. Because when they did low bar, it negatively affected their bench so much that they didn't want to do it. John has an elite bench. He's almost benching 600 pounds in competition. He doesn't want to sacrifice, you know, maybe he could gain 10 kg on his squat by going to low bar, but he would probably lose 10 kg on his bench by going to low bar. So there is a trade-off. Anyone who's doing a full power meet and has squatted before benching knows that their bench typically is lower in competition after doing the heavy low bar. There's a reason for that, because low bar is tough on the arms. So long story short, there's a trade-off if you do go low bar, although low bar will offer better leverages and 95% of people will lift more with low bar. That's a fact. Your overall leverages are going to be much better. You're not going to get pitched forward as much with a proper low bar, but it comes at the expense of your bench might not be quite as good. So these are things you have to weigh out. But if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell and all that good stuff for the sake of the algorithm. I appreciate you guys.